What's going on, and welcome to another episode of Blonde Locks and Big Rocks. So, in life, I would say that you celebrate a couple, we'll call them milestone birthdays. Some might say, the day you were born, maybe your golden birthday. To me, the one that sticks out in my mind is when you turn 16. Now, why 16, you might ask? Well, at 16 years old, you have the chance to get your driver's license. And to me, your driver's license basically means freedom, because at that point in time, the world is your oyster. You could potentially go anywhere and see anything. And when you turn 16 and your driver's license, that also means your first vehicle. And to me, your first vehicle is a special one. Anyone that's followed our channel would have already seen my first vehicle. It's our Jeep Dixie. I've had her for almost 23 years. And to me, it's a very special one. So, when we have a really good friend whose mom reached out to me and said, hey, my son's turning 16 and I want to get him his first vehicle. Can you help me out? Absolutely. So her and I kind of perused Facebook Marketplace and went on some adventures to go kind of look at vehicles. But nothing felt quite right. And still we stumbled across this. And at that point in time, we formulated a plan. Said, hey, let's stash it in my garage. I was going to do a little bit of work to it, kind of fix it up. And then we'll surprise him on his birthday. So if we played our cards right, he will not know anything about this. Let's go in the garage and take a look at what we got. So ladies and gentlemen, this is what we're dealing with here. This is a 1999 Jeep Cherokee. She's only got 160,000 miles on the clock. Now I know some people might think that she looks a little bit rough, but I'm going to tell you right now, she's got good bones. A little bit of TLC. We're going to make something out of her. Let me do a quick walk around, kind of show you a few things that we're dealing with. So under the hood, we got a couple things. First off, this hood release cable is broken. So gonna have to replace that. This hood latch was seized up when we went and picked it up. So got that sitting over here. Gonna have to get that loosened up. One of the big problems is right there. There's a busted out brake line. Now that brake line goes obviously to the front, but then it goes all the way up and around. So that will need to be addressed. Now one thing I'm not quite sure that I'll be able to show this on camera at all. Let's see if we can't get in there. Now I can't quite get it positioned just right with the light, but right just to the next to where that's pointing, the exhaust manifold looks like it's got a crack right around where the collector is. Very common issue on these 4 liters. So looks like we're going to probably wind up replacing the exhaust manifold on that. Like I said, it's a very common problem on these. One thing I will mention, previous owner said they just put in these brand new LED headlights. So it's got that going for it. Now, one thing you might notice, like this tire, she's not holding wind anymore. It's actually got some mismatched tires on it. It's got more or less what would be like a 30-inch tire on one side and 31s are all around in the other corners. In the back, we'll go underneath there and see if I can show you. It looks like someone went in here and they lifted it with a 2-inch lift block. Now, on the front side, they don't have anything. So, one thing we're going to address is the height in the front. Probably going to put some spacers in the front to level it out with the rear. and then get some matched tires to go all around. Now these rims, they're kind of a fake beadlock wheel. They're kind of rusty and crusty. So I think the plan might be to, since we're going to replace the tires, get these off, get them cleaned up, and then paint them, and then, kind of make them look a little bit more like new. Another thing this thing has going for it is the rocker panels that are on this Jeep. Most of them, you see, are all rotted out. But on this particular one, she's solid. So that's another positive. Inside, it's got your common door pin sag just on the driver's door. So I'm going to probably wind up replacing the door pins on that. Now the driver's seat, the ad didn't say it, but it's actually broken. So sourced a seat for that, going to get that replaced. Someone has conveniently painted, the inside panel here. And they've also replaced the radio. So that's pretty cool. Rear view mirror sitting over there. We'll have to get that put back up on the window. You've got your usual, just XJ headliner sag. Very common problem on these. I've already started to look into this situation where it broke, like I said, the hood release cable. Oh, wow. This right here, this is aftermarket cruise control. I don't think it came from the factory like that. Maybe they did. Interesting, yeah. That is aftermarket because I think most of them, the buttons were on here, so that's kind of cool. Let's go around to the other side and open up the glove box and see if we see anything fun inside. Oh, some random junk, some duct tape, empty cans. There's a glove. Looks like some empty cigarette butts. Looks like we got some speaker wiring, so I'm guessing this thing may or may not have some kind of performance speakers in it. Ooh, free screwdriver. That's always handy. Let's see. What is this? I don't know. It almost looks like a metal chopstick. I'm not even sure what this is. If anyone has any ideas what this is, make sure to leave a comment below. Because otherwise I'm just going to say that it's a metal chopstick. Huh. I wonder what we got in the center console. Oh, cool. Another free screwdriver. There's some plugs. Maybe for when they put the radio in. But who knows. So I went ahead and got the seat out of the Jeep so we could kind of assess the situation here. And not really liking what I see. As you can see, this is all busted open. This is the side that was lifting up. It's missing a huge chunk right there. The only thing that was sitting in there was this little piece, and that is not going to fill in that whole gap right there. Moving down, this is all busted open, and then this bracket should be attached to the frame inside of here, and well, no longer is. Now, we could go through and try to, repair all this and save the seat, but I'm kind of wondering at this point in time if it wouldn't be a cheaper and better option just to find a different seat. So I'm going to have to kind of weigh our options at this point. Now, one thing to make mention is this thing, these guys had this exhaust all screwed up. They had their own little pipe on it, and then they had this tip, and basically they were just attempting to side dump it out. I think the guy said this was off a Corvette, so had to add like 10-15 horsepower. Oh sweet, it's got Jeep floor mats. That's always cool. There's extra brake fluid because, like I said, we know that we got that leaky brake line. Anything good underneath the back seat? Mask, boatloads of stereo wiring. I don't know if I really see anything else of interest. Nope. All right, let's go to the back. Trunk support struts work. That's a bonus. It is missing a spare tire, but we've also got one of those. It's got this sub sitting back here, and there's an amp, but none of that's hooked up, so we'll have to see if maybe we can't figure that out. It's kind of weird that they got the sub just sitting here with no box. You can kind of see a little bit more. They did the old push tack headliner trick. Very, very common. But other than that, she's just dirty. Now, one thing underneath to make note is it does have some bad front axle U-joints. Once again, just kind of a very common thing, especially, you know, on a vehicle that doesn't see a lot of off-road, but, you know, just, you know, road salt, dirt. So we actually got some on order. We'll get those changed out. Now, when I mentioned they tried to do their own hack job on the exhaust, they basically just lopped it off right here past the cross member. So that looks like and then there's just nothing. They're trying to hold it up with some, you know, mechanics wire. And they're trying to side dump it off the side. But we'll have to, you know, figure out exactly what we want to do with that. And I think that right there is the plug for the O2 sensor that have been after the catalytic converter. But pretty solid old rig. So I think one of the next steps is going to be we're going to get this thing jacked up, get the tires pulled off of it, so we can start getting those demounted and getting the rims cleaned up on that. And that'll also give us a chance to look over, you know, the brakes and anything else that may or may not need to address. And like I said, we can fix that broken brake line. So jacking this up, just seeing something that you never want to see. Got a bad unit bearing. So that's going to need to be addressed. So I've got all four successfully off. This driver's front, man, did it fight me. She already had one broken stud. Taking them off, this one broke. And this guy right here, well, the stud got loose. Well, it started spinning. And, yeah. I got super lucky. I was able to just basically hold a pry bar on the back between the rotor and the rim and just put extra pressure on there and just slowly worked it off. But it took me a while to do that. So, but good news is if it is any good news, is that this bearing right here is trashed. So we don't have to worry about replacing those studs because we're going to have to replace the unit bearing. Now remember I showed you in the rear it had that lift block for lift. Up front, the other side doesn't have it, but all I got is this little itty bitty little spacer deal. But we're actually going to replace and put a bigger spacer in there that should hopefully level this thing out. So right now she's in hoverboard mode. All the tires are here. On to the next step. So I went ahead and took the caliper off here, mainly for the simple fact that I could come in here and I could start, you know, spraying all this, because I know that this has a tendency to want to seize up and doesn't want to come out that easy. So we're going to spray it down, soak it, so that when it comes time to pull that out, hopefully it's easier. Plus we can kind of see that bad U-joint a little bit better. So I'm going to soak both sides. Like I said, the hub bearings were coming off anyway to get to the front axle shaft so we can change the U-joints out. So we'll just have to look and get some ordered up so we can replace those as well. So it's a Friday night. As you can see, parts have started to show up. we're trying to pull out the front axle shaft so we can start replacing the U-joints on here and also the hub bearings. Went ahead and got the driver's side all tore apart and working on the passenger side, and thought that I would kind of quickly show you a little bit of the process that's involved with this. So I've already started on it, but first thing you're going to see is going to look like this little castle nut, and then there will be a cotter pin that goes down the hole. You pull the cotter pin out, then this little castle washer comes off, and then you'll see this spindle nut right here. That right there is going to require this big socket right here, which is a 36 millimeter. Then once you have that off, there's actually 3 bolts. It's kind of hard to see, but there's one there, and then there is one on the back side. Now those are 12 millimeter. So you're going to need the old star to get that done. And if we go over here, I'll show you, since I've got this out, exactly what one of those looks like. And here we go. So this is one of the bolts right here. So like I said, you cannot use a 6-point on it. You got to use, a 12-point socket, 12-point wrench to get those out. Then once you have removed all 3 bolts, then you're going to basically come in here with a chisel and a hammer and basically just kind of walk around there, and then that'll pull the bearing out, and then you can slide the axle shaft off. So I'm going to get back to getting on this so that I can get this axle shaft off, because this one right here is the real bad joint. Now, one thing that I always like to do when I put them back in is I'll clean all of this up, and then I'll actually put anti-seize around here, which will kind of help prevent that from sticking. And then, put a little on this back side here, and then I'll also, clean up the bolts, put a little bit on the bolts. That just all helps for when you have to do this again. Now this right here is the U-joint. Trying to see if I can get it on video. You can see the cap is just gone. All the bearings are out of it. So this one really needed it. So we've got the passenger one out, driver one sitting over there. So we're gonna get these swapped out. I said I still got to order some new bearings for this so that this can all go back together. But this is a success. One thing that I was having issues with was the passenger hood latch was all twisted up, could not get it to lock. So I had to go in here and completely disassemble this to free all of this up. But I think I've got it working now, so I just have to put it back together and then get it back in the Jeep and test it. Got it all back together, and now back to working again. So that's ready to go back in the Jeep. One minor thing that needs to be addressed is the rearview mirrors off. So I went ahead and picked up, just some rearview mirror adhesive. And one thing I always like to do if I gotta do this is mark the window, but this Jeep's got tint across it, so it's essentially already been marked. So it's just a real simple process. You basically take that little towel and clean the button, and then you also clean the spot on the window. Just need to make note what the orientation of this button is, because like I said, it's got 2 different sides. So once it's clean, you allow that to dry. You put a drop on that, stick it up there, hold it for a minute, and then once that's done, you just wait 30 minutes and you can hang the window back up, or the mirror back up again, sorry. Last night after I got off of work, picked the kids up after they got out of school, and we went on a little side quest. Now we got 4 pretty much about brand new tires. 30 by 9.5 by 15s. for a really good price. So now we just need to go drop these off so they can get remounted on the rims. So it's been a little bit since we've worked on this unit. We've kind of gone on a couple of little trips here and there, and haven't had much time to do it. But in the meantime, we've slowly been acquiring parts. So today's the day we try to jump back in and make a big dent in this and try to see if we can't get it done. Run across my first hurdle. Now, in trying to stay with a budget, trying to find, the least expensive parts. Been searching on the old jungle site. And this is a new hood release cable. And this is our old one. And you can see it is way too long. The listing says that it fits this particular make and model. Not to mention that where it clips in, this versus this. So there is no way that this is going to work. So I'm going to have to send that one back and try to figure out an alternative. They say it never rains, but it pours. And I've come across my second problem with parts. Let me flip the camera around, show you what I got going on. So on a 99 Jeep Cherokee, they have two different designs, like a first design and a second design. And I guess mid-year they kind of switched as far as hub design and also rotor design. Now I did do some research on the internet trying to figure out which one I had. And one thing it said from what I searched for is that the rotor hat, if it was a sharp drop off, just a 90-degree hat, it was the second design. The first design had kind of a rounded edge to it. I also went and measured off stud length, and everything I could see pointed to second design. So I ordered second design, and this is the unit that came in the mail. Now, as you can see from the old one, the studs are way longer, and this center part here, the hub, is way taller. So they just don't quite match up. And I thought, well, maybe we can make it work. But when I install them, and I put the rotor on, we run into a clearance issue. And the rotor doesn't clearance. So apparently, when I did a little bit more research, it looks like these are actually first design, and I ordered second design. So now I gotta go take these off, send those back, and get the right stuff, because this is just not gonna work. I also tried on the other side pulling the braking or the backing plate off, and it still doesn't fit. It wants to rub the spindle. So I guess back to the drawing board on this. After both of those disappointing setbacks, I felt like I needed a win. So I went ahead and clean adjusted the rear brakes on this, and then I put the rear tires on so I could kind of see what it looks like. Went ahead and we decided to stick with 30 by 9.5 by 15s. There were some 31s on it, but with the lip that's on it, they kind of rubbed, and just to avoid, doing any kind of fender trimming, this was the best bet. Doesn't look too bad. I also went and put the new rear taillight on. So, trying to get small little victories, even though we've had minor setbacks, but we're going to push through and make it happen. On today's episode of It's Not Dumb If It Works, working on installing these spacers up front, which should match the lift blocks in the rear, and had to disconnect the lower control arm, trying to move the axle back. Just couldn't line things up, so pulled the winch from old Dixie sitting out there in the driveway. And then I've got the wireless remote, so then I could sit there and bump it, line it up just right so I could stick the bolt back in there. So we got one side down, had to fight it. Now I'm going to go fight the other side. I just wanted to give you an idea on what all we got going on here. So the sway bar link is disconnected. The track bar, which basically kind of aligns your axle, that's disconnected. and I have the lower control arm disconnected, and then that allowed the spring to come out. So now I need to go get the spacer from over here and get this installed, which, see, it's got a taper there and it has a taper right here. So this is just going to go up like this. So once we get this installed, we'll get that moved up, get the coil put back in, and then it's aligning the axle, which can be tricky, but we'll make it happen. As you can see, the sun's gone down. It's time for the night shift to take over. Oh wait, that's me. Took a momentary break on the front suspension and got the driver's seat installed. I need to get some ratchet straps, try to align the track bar, to align the front axle. It's not playing very nice, but we're going to keep cranking on this, even though the sun's gone down, because, you know, we got to get her done. I want to go ahead and bring you in here and show you what we got going on right now. Kind of looks like we're missing something here. Well, that would be the intake manifold. It's sitting over there. The intake and the exhaust manifold, they basically kind of share bolts. And the reason we're digging down this deep is something very small but very common on 4-liters. So if you look, it might be hard to see, but we'll see it better once we get it off. But if you look right there, you can see that orange line. That's actually a crack. And right where it goes into the collector. And it's a very common problem and just something to look for, like I said, where these two tubes come in there. Because it's so long, it doesn't flex. So a lot of times in the aftermarket, you'll see almost like looks like a resonator or like a little baffle, you know, to try to help it with flexing. So it's something small, but I happen to notice it, and I just want to change this out before it becomes a bigger problem later on. So we're going to zip this off, and then once I get it off on the ground, I'll probably bring it back in there and show you it up close. Promised I'd bring you in once I got this off. It's just a small hairline crack right now. But you let these go, and then pretty soon all of this is all rotted off. So we're going to go ahead and get this swapped out now, just as a preventative measure so we don't have to worry about it later. This is what I was talking about before. You see right here how it's got this little, it's like a resonator or a baffle, a little flex joint. On here it doesn't. So what happens is, because this is really long when the engine starts torquing, then that's when you get the cracks down here going into the collector. So in the aftermarket, they put these on there, and then that goes and prevents it. So this is kind of an upgraded unit. And we're going to go ahead and get this put back in. Just wanted to make mention that, like I said before, these share bolts. But what you do is you put the exhaust manifold in first, and there's a stud there, and there's a stud all the way back there, and there's one bolt in the middle here. That's just for the exhaust manifold alone. So you put those bolts in there. Then you'll see there's a dowel pin here and a dowel pin over here. And on the intake manifold, it has the slot right here and right here. So what you do is you kind of fish that in between the tubes for the exhaust manifold, get it on those dowel pins, and then you go and you put a bolt in there, and then you go through it. But as you can see, there are 1, 2, 3, 4 on the top, and then there are 4 on the bottom. Now the bottom ones are a little tricky to get to. You gotta kind of just, you know, go by feel. But we'll see if I can't, you know, hold the camera and maybe get this lined up just to kind of give you an idea. Alright, and see, just like that, sitting where it needs to be, so I gotta put the camera down so that I can put some bolts in. So after I screwed up and got the wrong parts, it's rock auto to the rescue. Got some new hub units that are first design. I also went ahead and got a new hood release cable, and this looks to be a lot closer and more or less the same length. So we're gonna go ahead and get all this installed. Now it is time to finally do something about the brake line, which it is over here. For whatever reason, someone, as you can see, had pinched this off. So got a new brake line there and got some compression fittings. So now we're gonna see if we can't get this part fixed. Went ahead and got the brake line bent and hooked up and got a compression fitting under the hood. I'll show you that in a second. Did run into a problem. The brake line that they gave me at the parts store, these are the size fittings that I had, and for whatever reason that would not screw into there. So it had to be the wrong, thread size. So what I wound up doing is took and cut off the old brake line. Then we slid it on the new piece of brake line because the diameter of the tube was the same. And yeah, bingo bango, we basically made our own brake line. So up top here, all the way in the back of the valve cover, that's where I got the compression fitting. So I got the bleeder cracked on it right now, trying to gravity bleed. And then we'll try to, pump press and get brakes back. So even after getting this tire mounted on this wheel, it's got a bad bead leak. Let me show you a picture right here. So we need to figure out if we can somehow reseal this up. And normally you'd break a tire down with a tire machine, but we don't have one of those. Or do we? Was having camera difficulties, but when it works right, this is what you get. So I went ahead and used this block, drove up on it. You put it right on the edge of the bead, and then with all the air out of it, she just goes, and there you go. We have successfully broken a tire down with using Dixie as a tire changer. Now you can see what's going on. Now I got the tire broke down. It's kind of exactly what I was thinking. Just the way that the rims were all, kind of corroded. This lip inside here is corroded as well. So we're going to try and clean that up. I think I got some bead sealer laying around. We'll throw some bead sealer on there and then fill it back up, and she should be good to go. Went ahead and got the rim cleaned up a little bit. Then went ahead and put a little of this on there. So that should hopefully seal that up. This is the setup we had because I had to try and hold the tire and pull up. So I basically put it inside of the bogger, pushed down on the rim, which kind of pushed up on the tire, and yeah, we were able to get it popped back on there. So hopefully this is good to go now. One less thing to worry about. Every Jeep tends to have a nickname, and I think I just figured out the nickname for this one. When I was going through the back, I happened to find this nameplate, which I'm thinking from the looks of it probably came off the sub, but being that it's a red Jeep, I think Optimus is a pretty fitting nickname for it. Yeah, Optimus. Went ahead and got Little Man. He's gonna help clean up the inside a little bit. I think somehow Coulter has Huck Finned his way into getting Cassie to work on cleaning, so now she's taking her turn at vacuuming. The next thing we're trying to correct is the door pins were just wore out. Anytime you try to close the door, it would just not line up with the striker. So got the old ones knocked out, as you can see, which was a feat. Basically, we went through and just kind of cut the pin in the middle and then drove the top out, drove the bottom out. which wasn't easy, but we got her done. So now it's a matter of just getting the new pin kits put in. So at this point, we've reached the beautification process, if you will. It took what seemed like forever, but we went ahead and got all the adhesive off here, and we started to tape this up. Because the next step's going to be, we are going to put some truck bed liner on the flares, do it across the bottom. Hard to see right now, but went ahead and renewed the black on the bumper end caps. I think that turned out pretty good. So it's getting dark, but we're going to keep soldering on and try to get this done, and we'll see how this turns out. It's super late, obviously. It's dark outside, the sun's gone down. But we're over here just trying to get this finished up. Want to make it look, you know, just right. For instance, this flare was real sun faded. And even in the dark, already looking better. Can't wait to see what she looks like in the daylight. We get to do a tape pull. Stay tuned. Went ahead and got this fired up for the first time in a long time. Right now, just using the exhaust that kind of came with it until we can get it replaced. It's tight on there though, it's not going to come off. We had her back in the garage for the night. It's the night before the big reveal. Time to tie up a few loose ends. I didn't film it, but when I got off work, got the kids, and we went ahead and kind of gave this a quick bath. And then his mom and his sister came over and worked on kind of cleaning the interior out. We got some new oil, a filter, some wiper blades, and then, you know, it's all about the little details. So go ahead and take a look inside here. And then you'll see on the dash, we got the Jeep's name. And then what first vehicle will not be complete without little black ice air freshener. Got that mounted up. So if all goes well, hopefully in the morning, we'll take one little final test drive in this thing. Then we're going to put it on a trailer and then go stash it for the surprise. Went ahead and got the oil change all done. Then got the wiper blades put on. And you might be wondering, hey, you're kind of missing a wheel here. Well, that's the one that we've been having problems with. I keep losing wind out of it. And you saw us break it down, get that one side cleaned up. And I'm happy to say that that side, she's good to go. But the other side, whew, not so much. So looking like we're going to have to repeat the process on this side, break this down, get this cleaned up so that we can still, you know, get this thing loaded up tomorrow. It's not one thing, it's another, but we're going to make it happen. Went ahead and got the tire sealed up first thing this morning. It's loaded on the trailer. There's only one thing left to do, and that's to set up the surprise. I've had a lot of fun, you know, taking some time working on this. I really enjoy working these old Jeeps, and I feel very honored that I could be part of this special moment. So there's only one thing left to say is happy birthday, and I hope you enjoy your first vehicle just like I've enjoyed mine.
Sorry. Oh! Oh! Yeah! I'm adding a lift kit to that thing.
It's already got one on it.
Like, not that high though. Not that high. But yeah.
What do you think?
I read.
He gave it to you.
Oh really?
That was his mom's gift. What is birthday?
Huh? Why does it smell like golden in there?
Oh.
Someday.
Alright, so we need to hear, what are your impressions?
Love the car, love the smell after we're done driving it.
So at the end of the day, the reveal was a success. We had the element of surprise which we were going for. He knew nothing about it and was completely shocked when he saw it. Now we kept the amount of people that knew about it to a minimum, to avoid anyone kind of blurting anything out ahead of time. Now there was a couple times where parts had kind of crossed paths, and he just never quite put the pieces to the puzzle together. For instance, the rims were actually over at his house, where his mom cleaned them up before bringing them back over here. Now a question I asked myself is, have we inspired the next generation of Jeeper? Well, I don't know. It's kind of yet to be determined. But what I do know is that he absolutely loves the Jeep and loves driving it. And any chance he gets, he wants to get behind the wheel. And that makes me happy. Because I know I've had a boatload of fun driving this thing over the years. And I just wanted to pass that along. Now I know the video ran a little bit long, but I just kind of wanted to show you what going out and buying a cheap Jeep and putting a little bit of time, money, and elbow grease into it could get you. You know, what the end result could be, the transformation, if you will. So, hopefully you enjoyed that. And like I always say, there's no time like the present, so start 'em young. Until next time.